Hello and welcome to another webinar from the Accountants Mastermind. My name is Mark and I'm here today with Mike and Suz from WhisperClaims and Jennie from Red Fish Accountancy. Mike and Suz are here to talk to you about how the R&D landscape is changing and how WhisperClaims can help your practice keeping your R&D tax claims within the HMRC guidelines. Jennie's also here to give her view as an accountant on how the WhisperClaims software and service has helped her deliver R&D tax claims within her practice. Say hello, Mike, Suz and Jennie.
Hi.
Hello, and let's get started. Without further ado, I don't think people have come to listen to me, so I'm going to hand over to Mike, Suz, and Jennie, and let you hear about WhisperClaims. So, guys, good luck and enjoy it.
Thanks so much, Mark. Great. Well, welcome everyone to our series of App Showcase webinars, and thank you so much to the Accountants Mastermind for having us today. We've done a few of these sessions with just Mike and myself, so we're absolutely thrilled today to be joined by Jennie, really so that you don't just have to take it from us about how fantastic WhisperClaims software and support is. You can hear about Jennie's first-hand experiences, which she'll be sharing with you a bit later on. Our aim is for you to leave here today feeling empowered and confident to either kick off your new R&D tax service in-house or to power up your existing service by implementing WhisperClaims into your business. As many of you will be aware, there is a huge shake-up to the scheme about to happen, and we want to demonstrate how technology with the right support can offer you a structured framework to keep you up to date and compliant during this significant wave of change. Mark's already done the housekeeping for us, so as he said, please pop the Q&As, the questions in the Q&A box. Just a quick brief outline. Mike's going to start off by providing a brief intro into us, why we do what we do, and the impact we are having on the R&D tax market to date, as well as discussing with Jennie what brought her to us and how we've helped her to overcome some of the challenges she was facing. We'll then have a bit of a dive into the app and importantly be discussing our comprehensive support suite and our pricing and making sure that we've got plenty of time for your questions at the end. So that's it from me for now. Over to you, Mike and Jennie.
Lovely. Thanks, Suz. First thing I'm going to say is explain to you what we're not. So WhisperClaims are not consultants. We don't work with SMEs and we don't do claims for anybody. So what are we? We sell a combination of our award-winning software and support into accountants, all designed to give you, if you like, the ultimate confidence in delivering an R&D tax service. So what is that kind of range of services and support? So award-winning software, yes, but it's not just about that. We've got a combination of learning tools. That's things like our blogs, our webinars, sessions like this, training courses, and our WhatsApp user community as well, combined with our advice line support, which is manned by experts in the scheme and is there essentially as a resource for you to lean on whenever you need it. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a little while. Next slide, please, Suz. So our journey so far, just on the right-hand side of this slide, I mentioned our awards to date. I'm not going to go through these line by line, but just to say, perhaps one of the things we're most proud of is the fact that our awards are a combination of technology awards that recognise the fact that what we've done technically has been difficult and challenging to do, but also awards from the accounting sector to recognise the contribution we've made to accountants and their clients over the 4 years since we launched. Over on the left-hand side here, just a few sort of stats to give you an idea of where we've got to. We launched in September 2018, so about 4.5 years ago. We're now working with actually about 170 subscribing firms nationally. They're a real mixture of firm sizes. We've got a tiny smattering of top 100 firms, but actually the majority are small firms with perhaps anything between 1 and 5 partners and up to kind of 50, 60 staff. That's our sort of sweet spot. Just over 2,800 claims done to date, and our current run rate It's the equivalent of a kind of large consultancy, the big name consultancies that you'd be aware of. So again, one of the things we're proud of is the fact we've enabled all of these accountancy firms to essentially compete toe-to-toe with those consultancies. Those 2,800 claims represent about 400 million of eligible spend so far, which is over 100 million of tax benefit delivered to the clients of our customers. So again, in terms of the impact that our customers are having in the market, it's been quite a remarkable journey. So that's enough about us. Jennie, can you tell us a little bit about Red Fish?
Sure. Red Fish is a small practice in Sussex. We've been going for over 20 years, and I've got 10 team members, so we're quite small. We specialise in support for techie venture capital backed businesses, often in high growth areas. And I've got around 120 customers. And in the past, we acted for companies such as Zoopla, Shuttle and People Per Hour. So we've always been very aware of our R&D, although we didn't used to do it ourselves.
And what was it that brought you to us in the first place? What was the problem you were trying to solve when you came to our door?
Yeah, as I say, we were very aware of R&D and understood it to a certain degree, but we hadn't braved offering it ourselves as a service. But as our client base started growing, we found demand growing as well for offering. People kept asking us, our customers kept asking us, they wanted to do it with us rather than an external company. So we found WhisperClaims and subscribed and got stuck in. The training and support have been absolutely invaluable to us, and as well as the reporting structure.
Brilliant. And one of the things I noticed looking at the stats this morning, that in the last 12 months, you've done, I think, 12 claims with us. They've all been fairly substantial compared to the kind of average that we see going through. Yeah. I guess that's a reflection of what you just said about the sort of technological intensity, if you like, of your client base.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we found that actually the ability to invite our clients in to collaborate with us has been a really good feature, because they're all quite techie, software-y people as well, and they like the fact that they can go in and put the report information in themselves. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm just referring to these stats here again. Your average eligible spend per project per claim is about 300k or just over. Yeah. So that'll be about 70 or 75k's worth of tax benefit per client. So that's a considerable value add, if you like, back to your
Definitely value add to the clients, and also value add for our practice, because we're getting the fee income for that, whereas beforehand it would have been an external firm getting that. So it's been really good income stream for our business as well.
Excellent.
Jennie, sorry, you're right for me just to interrupt very quickly, Mike?
Of course.
So from another perspective as well, Jennie, if it's something you obviously knew of and really wanted to get involved with, what pain is WhisperClaims solving you from doing it yourself?
Well, they've really helped. I mean, creating a report is really great, because I used to see the R&D reports come through, fancy schmancy ones coming through from people like Forrest Brown, and I used to, my clients would be asking me about doing R&D, and I said, how would I prepare a report like that? But WhisperClaims, you put the information in and they produce the report, which is great. They also really help guide on the costs. You always worry when you're first doing something. We never trained for this. We never did any of this when we were training. So sort of trying to learn how to do it. WhisperClaims help with that, and they go through the costs, and we have a little template that we use to create the costs initially, but it's not until we plug it into the software that we're confident that they're 100% correct.
Okay. In terms of so expertise is one aspect, and the report writing. So is it also time? And sorry, Mike, if you're going to talk about this, but sure. is it also time as well? Is it something?
Well, I think I mean, it doesn't save a huge amount of time, because it wasn't something we were offering before. So, you know, but what it does do, because you can invite the clients in to collaborate to fill in their part of the report, that really helps, because, you know, you can either sit with them and do it, or, you know, so with a lot of my clients, they're quite, once you've done it once with them, they're quite happy to go in the following year and go through that again. So it saves time in terms of that. But it's not really so much about saving time, it's more about creating the report. I mean, how long would it take you to create the report if you weren't using the report building software? That I guess would be a big time saving, but we never did the report ourselves anyway.
It's adding something in, but also eliminating the time, because you don't have to do it, but still able to offer that service. And
yeah.
Right, thank you. Sorry,
just to take that a bit further, Mark, just you know, obviously we work with a lot of companies who were doing claims themselves beforehand, so we've got that kind of measure of the time difference, and that's anything from kind of days and weeks to work through those reports and get that painful task completed, and we've compressed that down to an hour or two in terms of the job that the software is doing in terms of report writing. But I think there's a kind of softer element to that, Jenny, that's really important, that a lot of people say to us, it was facing the prospect of putting a report together on a subject they were not necessarily familiar with and not necessarily comfortable with. And actually, a lot of accountants find that really daunting. So it's taking that pain away. Yes, there's a time save, but there's almost that kind of softer thing of almost a release, if you like, that it's taken care of.
Completely agree.
Excellent, brilliant. All right, well, we'll move on to the next slide, Suz, please.
No problem. Sorry, me. Okay.
Great, cheers. So we're working at the minute in a significantly changing landscape. So I'm sure most of the people on this call will be aware of the recently announced changes that have come through in several phases from HMRC. I'm not going to work through that sort of long list on the left-hand side, but suffice to say that there are a lot of changes underway right now. Most of them coming into force from the 1st of April, although some of them have just been delayed slightly in the latest budget. But all of them are going to impact us in the next 12 months or so. But the thing I wanted to focus on here is that the recent changes in HMRC behaviour that are kind of coming about in conjunction with those structural changes to the scheme. And we've seen a whole host of things. There's been legal action that's come along in the last few months relating to serious fraud and organised crime around the scheme, and actually seen a number of people go to jail, which is very good to see when you get a flavour of what those frauds have actually all been about. Enhanced scrutiny, though, so higher inquiry rates, lots of one-to-many communications, nudge letters. In fact, in the last 6 months or so, we think, on the basis of some of the stats that we've seen, that somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 nudge letters have gone out on the scheme, which is probably 15 to 20% of the claims that have gone in that period. And that's a considerable difference to the way HMRC were operating previously. Large number of consultations, in fact, House of Lords scrutiny as well on the back of those consultations to sort of take a view on whether the impact of the proposed changes is really going to affect the scheme in the way HMRC would like. So, Jenny, any experience of any of those behavioural changes? Have any of those impacted you in the last few months?
Well, I have just had one inquiry raised on a client. Inquiries have always been few and far between, haven't they? I haven't actually had any nudge letters, which is surprising. But I guess if we're only doing 12 claims a year, then that's yeah. But we haven't.
Yeah, but at the current sort of rate that those letters seem to be going out, I would have expected to see you get sort of 3 or 4 of those.
Yeah.
To be honest, out of the 12, so you've been lucky there.
Yeah, but we have had an inquiry recently. So yeah, and I've heard a lot on the WhatsApp groups, the R&D WhatsApp groups that I'm a member of, one of them being WhisperClaims. There's a lot of talk about it, a lot of people getting nudge letters, a lot of people getting inquiries and quite aggressive inquiries as well. HMRC they seem to be being quite aggressive.
Yes, I noticed in the questions that had been sent in prior to the session that people were asking about this. What's the biggest impact, if you like, of some of these changes from HMRC in the last few months? And to my mind, the biggest impact is actually people kind of picking up a negative feeling about the scheme and being put off claiming on behalf of the clients, maybe even put off encouraging clients to claim. And I think that's a real shame because, the scheme is still there. The benefits are still there, albeit slightly squeezed compared to what they were. And actually, I guess to a certain extent, we're going to have to embrace the fact that this enhanced scrutiny is necessary going forward, and that we are just going to have to accept that there will be higher inquiry rates. But so long as the quality of the claim is there, and you've done a thorough enough job in putting the claim together in the first place, there's nothing to fear.
No, I would agree. And again, that's where WhisperClaims has really helped me in the past with an inquiry I had. The report, they brought up the same old stuff they always do, but the report, I think the fact that you've got a compliant and robust report to accompany it, makes them look past that, and all they were looking at was the technical advance as opposed to looking into a lot of the other information they could be.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit later about our advice line and the services that we offer that help with that, which I know you've been accessing in the last couple of weeks as well. That's brilliant. Suz, should I hand back to you for the demo next?
Yeah, sure. So bear with me, everybody. I just need to do a quick switcheroo of my screen so that I can take you all into the app. Mike, is everything looking good at your side for the app there?
Yeah, that's all working. Thanks, Suz.
That's great. Okay, cool. So I normally have an hour to do these demos, so as you can imagine, time's quite squeezed today because we want to make sure that we can include all the good stuff after this. So I will be doing quite a quick brief chop through the process. And if anybody does have any questions, feel free to pop them up in the Q&A, and we'll try and address them as we go if there's something specific that you want to talk about. But there'll be lots of information afterwards about how to get in touch if you want a full demo or you'd like to trial, things like that. I suppose the first thing to say before we do anything in the app is that there is absolutely no doubt that a user needs to have a basic level of understanding of HMRC's guidance and what constitutes eligibility. WhisperClaims has been designed to take you through a very structured and repeatable process to ensure that all of the right questions have been asked and to guide your conversations with your clients to ensure that essentially all the corners of the scheme have been poked into, with the outcome being a clear and concise report that demonstrates to HMRC why this claim is eligible for relief. We've had several questions before the session today about common errors and mistakes and how to avoid an inquiry. So I'll do an overview of the process, as I said, and I'll also show you the activities and costs being collated and how you're taken through a series of filters and gateways, and to understand where eligibility sits and what costs to associate there. But I'll also spend some time explaining our eligibility checkers and our risk mitigation features and additional add-ons that you can tap into should you need to. So very quickly, when you first come into the app, you are taken into your homepage dashboard, which is essentially your gateway into the rest of the system. You've got your ability to manage your account and do some other nice things in your account section. So you can do things like view your subscription, see invoices, and you've also got the opportunity to customize your report, change colors, move orders, add footers, that sort of thing as well. One thing that you're going to notice as we work through the app is that everywhere you are, you have access to our support team. Now, I won't go on too much about this because I know Mike's going to talk about this in a bit more detail, but we are here in the background, not to just help with technical aspects of the software, but also to provide assistance, guidance, advice, and help with any R&D related queries, be that around eligibility or the scheme. So everywhere you are within the app, you're going to see this question mark icon. So if I just open that up, you're going to see our phone number, and you can email us from within the app. You also have a live chat feature function as well here in the bottom right. So if you need to get a hold of us really, really quickly, drop us a message and we'll be back to you ASAP. When you first start working with a new customer, you go into the clients tab, and just very quickly just showing you big green button. As I start typing, you're going to see lots of data being pulled through. This is just a little API we have with Companies House that's doing that initial check to make sure that the company you're working with is limited. And you can see this is just some new features that we've had released this week with the additional information that HMRC are now going to be looking for when claims are being submitted. Once you've created a company within the app, you can then start creating claims off the back of the company. And so you view all of the claims that you're preparing or that have been prepared in your workflow tab. There's quite a lot going on in this screen. So very, very quickly, just indicating down that middle column there, you can see you've got progress bars. So the system is giving you an indication of how far along you are within each claim. You don't have to go end to end to a claim. You can dip in and out of the process as many times as you need to until you feel you're in a position that you're ready to finalise. Anything that's green is showing you that that claim is complete. So if I just move along this row very quickly, you're going to see you have two versions of the final report, a PDF and a Word version as well. The Word version is there just to give you that additional ability to customize the document, or if you have templates that you prefer to use, you can lift the copy much more easily and pop that into the template that you have. And there's other features and functions here that you can tap into. I won't go into them just now. That's for another day. Let's dive into a claim so I can show you around, as I said, the process in a bit more detail. So I'll do a quick intro of the page, and then we'll start bouncing through the process. So on your left-hand side, you have a progress/navigation bar. So these are all of the sections that you're going to work through, this very comprehensive structure that you're going to go through every single time, making sure, as I've said already, that all of the right questions have been asked. Every single page you're on starts with a question or a statement, and the way that you answer those questions or statements, we've got buttons here. You're going to see sliders, drop downs, multiple choice questions, free text areas too. Every single page has its own in-app help and support. So if I just hover over this link and open that up, you've got some notes, a short video, and links that take you directly to the guidance on HMRC's website should you feel like you need to do a bit more research. However, as I said, you've got us here in the background in support through live chats and the icon in the top right there as well. Every single page also has a notes section, so you can use that to add in evidence or reasons why you've answered a question a certain way. The notes are internal, they don't pull through into the report. And very finally, on every page, you have dynamic feedback just based on a red, amber, green protocol. So green is everything's good, let's move on to the next question. Amber's there to let you know maybe if you need to be asked some additional questions or if the claim has been weakened, that sort of thing. And if the way that you've answered a question deems the claim to be ineligible, you're going to see our red feedback. As you can imagine, our advice would always be, if you hit red feedback, abandon, this claim is not eligible and you should be exiting the process. However, if the way that you've answered a question has been mistakenly done or some more information has come to light, you can reverse out of the way you've answered the question to enable you to move on. The first part of the process is an initial qualification check. I'll just start gently scrolling through these questions here just to give you a flavour of the types of things that you're going to be asked. This is here just making sure that your client meets the very minimum criteria to be able to move forward, and you as a user are always responsible for answering these questions. Once you hit the company section, you are now starting to gather information about the staff, directors, that sort of thing. But it's from this point onwards, Jennie's already mentioned our collaboration feature there, that you have the opportunity to collaborate with your clients. Collaborators do have a restricted view of the question set. The way that you invite them in is simply by clicking on this tab, filling out the form, and you can see we've got some collaborators already here. You can further restrict access to cost questions for less senior members of the team who maybe shouldn't see things like salaries. Should you want to, that's obviously a discussion that you would have with your clients. And I'll flag at the end of the process the last bit a collaborator will see before you go through to review and finalise. Just to quickly demonstrate how the system in the background is constantly flexing to assess how spend should be routed. If I just inflate the number of staff here in the staff numbers question, you can see immediately the feedback at the bottom of the screen is updated. Fundamentally, the way that we're going to move through the system has not changed, and you're going to go through the same process. We've just got that additional bit of information now in our back pocket to have that discussion with our clients to talk about what their benefit might look like downstream. I'll just start again moving through the company section. So things like group structures and shareholdings can affect the ways spend is routed. So again, that's why you're seeing that amber feedback when I clicked yes in that question. Again, just always keeping you right, always making sure that spend is being routed in the background, so you don't need to worry about that. That bit's taken out of your concern. Into the project section now. So this is the part of the process where we're going to walk you through all of the activity that the client has been doing over the financial period to understand where eligibility lies, prompting conversations and gathering all the data that you need for the reports at the end of the process. The first question you get asked within the project section is to do with commercial drivers. So I'm just giving you an example of a different type of question structure here. This question is here for the purpose of the report to demonstrate to HMRC the difference, that we understand the difference between what's a commercial driver and what technically qualifies. So again, conversation with your client. I'm just going to expand some of these boxes here. You can see at the bottom of the screen, you can choose up to 4 options in this category, and that data will be pulled through into the report later on. Another key part of the process is to understand the type of R&D that your client is active in. So this is all around this part of legislation here. And you can see for this next part of the process, we've got some sliders, a different way of answering the question. So there's 4 sections in this part of the process. And as I said, we're trying to understand the type of R&D our client is active in using toggles and sliders to work out, as well as the type, what intensity they're working at. So we've identified the type of R&D our client is active in here. Another key element of the process is to understand who the competent professionals are. These are the people that are leading the projects, directing the technical problem solving. These are the experts in their field of science and technology who are scratching their heads finding something difficult. So it's really, really key that we know who these people are. And if we can't identify them, that is a bit of a flag. These are also the people that, should there be an inquiry raised and an inquiry moves through the early stages into some latter stages, these are the people that HMRC are going to want to be talking to and understanding what the issues were. So we've got the R&D, we know who the R&D type, we know who the competent professionals are. Now let's have a look at some of the challenges they were facing. So similarly to the commercial drivers question, you've got a series of categories. So again, prompting discussion, have a chat with your clients, understand what were the key issues that they were facing during the period. And as you can see at the bottom of the screen, again, the feedback is always keeping you right as to how many options you can choose. Now we understand what the challenges are, let's jump down to outputs, for example. So another really key element and part of something that you want to build into your process is having the conversations with your clients about the evidence that they are collecting along the year, so that when it comes to having these discussions, you know that your client has got everything lined up. It's also really, really key to be reminding your client that should there be any questions or queries raised, HMRC are going to want to see evidence. So at this point in the process, we're not asking you or the client to produce any of this information up front. We're trying to prepare you and again, ensure that you're having these conversations with your clients to ensure that they're archiving and keeping good records of the evidence that they have to support their claim. Grants is something else that you need to consider. They do add a layer of complexity to any R&D tax claims. So we just take you through a process demonstrating to HMRC that we've done our due diligence, that we understand that grants can have an impact. And if grants were used against the R&D, again, you're taken through a series of filters and gateways to understand the impact. And in the background, the system will be doing the routing of spend for you. The final bit of the project section is the technical detail section here. So this is the part of the process where we've done this sort of broad overview of all of the work that's been carried out over the financial period. And now we're at a point where we want to give HMRC some examples of the work. So the technical detail section is a very structured part of the process. We've got these really nice templates here to guide you to ensure that only information that HMRC needs to know is included. Jennie mentioned some large reports earlier on, and the daunting thought of having to, where do you start, how do you prepare these types of reports? There is no doubt some padding that goes on in reports that have been produced by maybe some of the larger consultancies. Quite often they are there to justify a fee. What we're trying to do here is to keep you very tight and very succinct, and as I said, only include information HMRC needs. So the 4 key areas that we ask you to focus on are things like the project baseline, the advance being sought, the uncertainties that the client experienced, and the resolutions that were attempted. You can include an image here as well and an image description. And as Jennie also mentioned as well, this is the part where you really want to involve your competent professionals. They are the people that were doing this work. They were the people that were going through the process of technical failure, and they are best placed to write these project descriptions rather than trying to explain to you, and then you have to go away and try and rework what they were trying to tell you, and it becomes secondhand information. You can add as many projects as you want to in this part of the process. You just keep clicking on the blue cross, which will throw up a new template for you. HMRC best practice guidelines are that 50% of the qualifying spend at the moment should be included in the project section. Moving forward, there's new guidelines coming in as to a ratio of how many projects the client is claiming for versus how many will need to be included, and the app will be have all of those questions and ratios in place for you to be able to identify that very easily. Mike, you had a bit of anecdotal evidence recently about time spent on reports and this sort of thing, and how inspectors are being squeezed. Do you want to come back in and give us that?
So we got some, as you say, anecdotal evidence around this that, and it relates to the nudge letters more than anything. So apparently the HMRC inspectors are now targeted on getting 8 reports through a day. So in other words, they've got to assess them and write a little feedback report on each claim that they look at. So effectively, they've got half an hour to do that with each claim. So apparently, if a claim hits the desk and it's apparent it's just simply too long for them to assess in that period, they're immediately marking it as medium risk, which is then resulting in a nudge letter. So we're seeing feedback from lots of people saying, hang on, I've put a comprehensive report in, and I'm still getting a nudge letter. I'm still getting asked for further information, even though all of this information is provided. And we believe that one of the triggers for that is simply that the report is too long and complex looking in the first place. So the more concise the report, the shorter it is, the more pointed it is, the better. And of course, that's one of the things that we've aimed to deliver with the software.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, so we are at the end of the project section there, and now into the costs. So now what we want to do, we've identified eligibility, is work out what costs to associate with that work. So there are 2 ways to be able to collect the first cost, which is staff costs. You can either do that globally, which is the view that you have in front of you here. If you're using this view, which is the full year salary, NIC pensions, bonuses, and any furlough, the next question that you're going to be asked is to reasonably apportion how much of the staff time overall was spent on R&D. I'm just going to flip back to that previous page just to show you that we do have a toggle here to take you through into an individual cost capture, which is obviously a much more robust and granular way to be able to collect this data. You can manually add this data in if you want to. However, we do have a CSV upload function, and you don't need to create a fresh spreadsheet for this. The system will ask you to map which fields you want to pull down and pre-populate the grid, so that the system in the background now will be able to work out itself what the overall staff time is based on these percentages here, and this will pull through into the report that you'll see in just a moment as well. Then it is just a case of going through the relevant costs. So first one is software costs, employment allowance, reimbursed R&D expenses. Then we've got software costs. So this is not the cost of developing software. This is any licenses or subscriptions that were paid for in order for the R&D to be carried out. What was the total spend? And then how much can we apportion to R&D? You'll see a running theme start to gather now. We've got clinical trials there, raw material spend, apportionment to R&D, heat and light, total spend, apportionment to R&D. Then we look at things like EPWs, so otherwise known as agency staff, externally provided workers. Were there any? If there weren't, you can exclude them. If there were, you can see in this example, we've got 2 boxes, depending on the relationship between the EPW and the claiming company, so whether they're connected or unconnected. And the difference between those 2 boxes is the filter that the spend will be put through, so whether it's 65 or 100% of the spend. And then the same again for subcontractors. We're asking you to identify the entity type and then the relationship between the client and the subcontractors as well. Because I've got some subcontractor spends, the next question I'm going to be asked in this scenario that I've taken you through, there's obviously different questions you can see and different routes you can come through, is how much of that spend overall was relevant to R&D activity. So we are down here at the end of the process. Just quickly jumping back to mentioning our collaborators, I did say that they have a restricted view of the question sets. This is the part of the process where a collaborator will end their journey. Everything else that I'm just about to show you now is for your eyes only as you're logged in. Collaborators will have a submit button here at the bottom of the screen. The blue button will say submit, and when they submit, you will get an email to let you know that they have completed their part of the process, and their access is then completely removed from the app. For you, however, I will take you into a claim summary review page. So on your left-hand side there, you have essentially an output of all of the numerical data that has been collected over the claim, just giving you a chance to stop and take a breath and make sure that everything makes sense before you finalise. You can see you've got lots of edit functionality running down the middle of the screen there to enable you to go back into the right questions. And then on your right-hand side, you have something that, as to some of the questions that I've alluded to prior to the session today, our in-app claim risk assessments. So this is based on a high, medium and low assessments, and this is an automated review of your claim. It is not a measure of eligibility. It's just here to help you understand if there are any potential weaknesses and enable you to take steps to mitigate against them, double check, make sure that you've got all your ducks in a row, all your I's dotted and your T's crossed. The automated risk assessment here is looking at things like company sector, so SIC codes, the size of claim versus the company turnover, if grants are present, if there are any group structures or shareholdings. All of these things are things that could potentially pique HMRC's interest. So what we want to do is leave you in a place where you're feeling confident that should the claim be pulled up for an inquiry or an audit check, you know that it is robust and defensible. Below that, you're going to see the approximate qualifying spend just here. As you can see, I've got spend going through both schemes just because we have a grant in this example here. You'll notice the figures are very round. They are rounded down ever so slightly. This is just giving you the opportunity to essentially do a quick and rough run through to understand what your client's benefit might look like based on their position, how they want to realise their benefit, whether they've got carried forward losses, that sort of thing. And then finally, below that, you're going to see the fee that you're going to pay for the report when you download it. I'll leave cost because Mike's going to talk about that in just a moment. But essentially, this is you now in a place where you're ready to finalise and download. So this is the wow moment. This is the bit where you can sit back and let the system do all of the legwork for you. You don't need to worry about going back to the office and writing a report or collating all of your notes. The system's going to baseline all of the figures and write our narrative. That's it done very, very quickly. So you're ready to download, which is here. Before you download, you do have the opportunity to tap into one of our additional add-on services. This is our claim review service, which is essentially an optional layer of reassurance should you feel you need it. So unlike the automated review on the previous page, the claim review is performed by Jen and Ian, who run our support team, both very seasoned R&D tax experts. They will essentially do a deep dive desk-based review into the company. They will look at all of the publicly available information about the company. They will look at the project descriptions to assess those for eligibility. They will analyse your costs and make sure that they're all lining up right, essentially providing you with a PDF report that gives you an assessment of how the claim hangs together. That's £100, and all you need to do to access that service is to add it on essentially into your basket before you download. When you download, that's when you get to see the report. So there's the PDF and there's the Word version. Let me very quickly bring up the report for you so I can give you a quick look at that before I hand back to Mike and Jenny for the next part of the session.
So, sorry, very quick question. If somebody missed that opportunity to have it ratified, I'm sure that's not the word you used, but is there an option to go back once they've downloaded?
Yes, absolutely. I can actually very quickly just show you that there. So if you go back into your dashboard once you've downloaded, that should come up in a second now. There we go. I showed you these ellipses very quickly. I glossed over them earlier on, but you do have a request to unlock function here. So all you need to do is come back into your dashboard, click request unlock. That sends an email through to our support team. We'll open up the claim for you, which essentially enables you to go back in, make whatever edits or amendments you need to, come back in to refinalize and re-download, and that the newest version of the report will be sat there in the dashboard now for you, ready to review and hopefully enable you to submit that. A question that I do always get asked at that point is, do you pay again? And the answer is no. You pay on download. If you ever need your claim to be unlocked, the system will just finalise and allow you to download the newest version.
If you haven't paid for that bit, the added bit, and you've downloaded it, can you then get it
Oh, you mean for the claim review service? Sorry.
Yes, sorry, that's the one I meant. Yes, sorry.
I'm so sorry. I do
No.
apologise. I totally went off on a tangent there. Yes.
That was a good answer, just not the one I
All you need to do is just get in touch with support. So just ping us a message on email, give us a ring, or drop us a live chat, and we'll be able to organise that for you very quickly.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so as I said, finally, just a quick look at the report for you. So this is what the report looks like. Obviously, this is completely nonsense information, but you've got a nice cover page. So there's new guidance. So things like the name of the agent and the firm will now need to be added into the report. So we've already got that here. Table of contents. And then I'll just quickly show you a quick scroll through the narrative. So what you'll hopefully see as I'm gently scrolling through the pages here is all of those buttons, those sliders, those drop downs that you've been adding your client's data to has now been turned into this very structured report, very structured paragraphs and headings that are essentially demonstrating to HMRC that all of the right questions have been asked, giving you and your client confidence that you have a robust and defensible claim here to put in front of them. Once you get past the narrative, you're then going to see the spend. So we lay out all of the qualifying spend for you in really clear tables here. And then the next page, the last bit of this table here are the actual raw eligible spend figures that you would add into the return. Just got some notes and assumptions based on the figures there for the inspector reviewing the reports. And then there's two potential appendix. The first one being the additional technical detail, which is a bit that I've suggested that you want to get your competent professionals very heavily involved in to talk about all of the difficulties that they were experiencing potentially over the work that they were carrying out that's being claimed for. And then very finally, when we were looking at the cost section, there were two ways to be able to collect staff costs, the detailed version and the global. If you filled out the detailed version here, you're going to get an output of that in Appendix 2 on the report there. So that's it from me. I'm going to switch back screens to the presentation and hand back to Mike and Jenny. Just give me 1 sec to do that. There we go. That's done.
Brilliant. Thanks, Suz.
There you go.
That's great. Thanks. So we mentioned earlier on the all of the changes that are rolling through from HMRC, and Suz mentioned in the demo there a couple of kind of immediate features that we've built into the product, and they're kind of rolling through constantly actually at the moment. The idea of this slide is just to give you an idea of how all of those changes translate into new features in the system. So this is effectively a list of all of the new stuff that's going to be going live over the next few weeks and months as we roll into this new regime. Now, I've just highlighted two over there on the right-hand side. I'm just going to pick on one of those. Create new HMRC portal output for easy copy and paste. Unfortunately, in some of the changes that HMRC have announced, one of the things that they've not announced is an open API. So we're not able to automate the submission of some of the new data that they're looking for. So what we've been working on in the background is an easy way to provide additional information that they're going to be requesting through their portal. So in future, they're going to want a technical report for every claim that's made, as well as the breakdown of costs, but they're also going to want this a set of questions in this portal to be completed. So to make your life as easy as possible, we're building a tool that essentially is going to create another output, as well as the report that Suz has just demonstrated, that will just be really easy to cut and paste into this form that HMRC are looking for. So essentially no extra work for you other than the cut and paste. In the perfect world, if we could build to an API and automate that, we would, but we can't. So we're doing the best we can for you. But I guess the reason for picking on that one is it's just a good example of us trying to keep ahead and keep the focus on making the process as easy and simple as possible for you as we go along. And Jenny, you've been working with us for I guess about 2 years now. I guess you'll have had the opportunity, perhaps maybe not quite as intense as things are at the moment, but to see that we do keep ahead of this stuff and kind of keep you honest as you work through these things and your submissions to HMRC.
Definitely. I mean, you had to introduce all the furlough questions and things, didn't you?
Yeah.
As we all had to deal with furlough.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Another sudden bunch of changes that took us all by surprise. So yeah, so all of these features are kind of underway. As Sue said, some of them are live already, but certainly over the next few weeks, you'll see more and more of these things roll through. So next slide, please, Sue. So pricing, just on the left-hand side here, I'll just talk a little bit about how we charge for our services. So we charge two fees. We charge a monthly subscription fee, that's £100 a month. And then we charge a download fee on each report. Now that's capped at £600. It's actually based on 2% of the eligible spend up to that cap. So in other words, if you've got a really small claim, you should always be able to download it and make the most of that. And actually, that's a good opportunity for me to just mention the range of claims that go through the system. So the biggest claim we've ever had go through is for 9.6 million of eligible spend. So that was still only £600. But maybe the thing to really raise a smile is at the small end. The smallest claim to go through is about £1,000 of eligible spend. So 250 quid's worth of tax benefit. At £1,000, 2% of 1,000, 20 quid to download that report. And I guess it's fair to say the reason why those small ones go through is the accountant will have worked through the process with the client. They've got to the end of it, realised that there is something there, but it's tiny. You're at that point, you may as well download it and deliver that value back to the client. We do have some very large users of the system, and that's where our enterprise pricing model kicks in. In that case, we have a look at kind of forecasted volumes and work out a fixed monthly fee based on those forecasted volumes. We've probably got half a dozen or so customers that work with us on that basis. Just over on the right hand side, what do you get for your money? So in terms of services, we've got the advice line that we've already mentioned. So you've got our team of experts sitting there to provide a shoulder to lean on when you need it. Automated risk review, you've seen that during the demo. The claim review service, so that's the additional £100 fee to have an expert work through the claim for you. Inquiry support service, so based on all of these changes recently, we've just introduced that. That again is a chargeable service. That's £250 for each iteration, which is essentially us having a look at the letters that you've had from HMRC, giving you some guidance on how to respond to that, then having a look over your response and making sure that you've put a sort of comprehensive response together before you send it through. Portfolio review services are a free service, so this is to help with you identifying new clients. So one of the guys will look through your entire portfolio of customers and do a red, amber, green analysis of who would we recommend you go and talk to about R&D in that list. And then the WhatsApp community group, which we've mentioned already. Essentially, that group, it's almost a self-help group is maybe the way to describe it. Obviously, people come to us to ask technical questions around the scheme. They tend to ask one another questions about latest experience. So things like turnaround times from HMRC, what kind of inquiry letters are they seeing, that sort of thing tends to get bounced around the group. And I know you're an active member of the group, Jenny. Any sort of observations on how that works?
Well, that's pretty much, people, and it's just nice to have support and know that other people are going through similar things with HMRC. But yeah, I think definitely, I mean, I've had some good responses when I've been asking about turnaround times. I think, was it beginning of last year, they were really delayed, weren't they? So yeah, we got right. a few good anecdotal evidence of what was happening, really.
Yeah, I think that the point you make about sharing experience is a good one. Even just getting the warm feeling that it's not just me suffering with whatever the problem is often a good thing.
Yeah,
I know you've accessed the inquiry support service just in the last couple of weeks. How's that?
Yeah, really helpful. It gives one of the big things that WhisperClaims gives me is confidence in what we're doing. So I'm pretty sure that we know what we're doing on it, but when it's something you've never had very much formal training in, you do worry about it. And we've had an inquiry recently and used the inquiry support service to help us structure our response and make sure that, you know, we're not saying something stupid that would then flag up to red lights to HMRC.
Yeah. Well, I've not told you this before, but when the team were looking over your response, they did actually make a comment that was, "These are really good."
Oh, excellent. Oh, good. Well, a lot of it was my client. My client.
But you're right, it's that kind of, you know, again, it's that warm feeling, that comfort and confidence that comes from a third party taking a look at it and
Definitely
giving you that feedback. Brilliant. Suz, I think it's back to you to talk about the sorry, no, it's not. I missed a slide. Thanks for putting that up. So just quickly, we tend to get prospects coming to us that fall into two slightly different camps. So either preparing claims already, where they're coming to us because they're looking for avoiding that kind of headache that I mentioned earlier on about writing reports from scratch, leaning on us through the advice line, so having that second set of eyes, but actually primarily looking for efficiencies in the process and making sure they've got a consistent process. In fact, some of our biggest customers, where they've got multiple sites, that's one of the key things, is how do they ensure they've got a consistent approach across those sites. Then we have this other group, which is people who are looking to launch a brand new service. So maybe looking to do that without adding capacity. They might be worried about this kind of black art around the 500 pages of HMRC guidance and being worried about that. And again, looking to lean on our advice line for support. So Jennie, just back to your experience working with us. Any kind of highlights in terms of the benefits that you've had working with us, given what you were looking for when you came to us in the first place?
Well, definitely. I mean, you know, so from the beginning, sort of your training webinars were really useful. They really gave me a starting point to where I could talk to my clients about it and, you know, help them write the technical detail on the report. And just generally, I feel that you've sort of grown with me as well. You know, you when I first started doing it, I was really new to it, and I felt like a total novice. And you know, you just supported me and held my hand through that. You know, with your webinars and with your advice line, and you know, I've utilised that a few times, and everyone's always, you know, doesn't make me feel like I don't know what I'm doing, and just gives me confidence. Actually, what I'm preparing, my dog is barking. What I'm preparing is compliant, and you know, the advice I'm giving my clients is correct.
And do you find that translates itself into the quality of conversations you're having with those clients as well? Do you feel, I guess maybe empowered is the term, you know, when you're having those conversations, you feel like you're in a different place?
Definitely. You know, I can explain I can explain everything much better to my clients these days than I used to be able to. And when they try and push through things that aren't quite compliant, you know, they're not R&D, whichever, everyone always tries to push the boundaries. You know, I feel I can explain it to them why we can't claim for certain things, and why, you know, we should be restricting, you know, directors at 100% of their time, and they as they all want to do. But yeah,
that's definitely one you've learned. Then that's good to hear.
yeah. No, I've learned a huge amount, you know, using WhisperClaims in general. So yeah, it's been fantastic. I'm a big fan.
Great stuff, brilliant, thanks. So Suz, it is back to you now, just to talk about the trial and how people can access what we're offering.
Yeah, so thanks, Mike. So I suppose now you know all about us and you've seen the app in action. We would love to onboard you. We do have the opportunity for anybody who wants to start kick off your trial. Within your trial, you get 30-day subscription free, so you don't pay your first £100 subscription, and you get full access to the app and full access to Jen and Ian in support, as I've said already, as we've all talked about, for any of your scheme, eligibility related queries, anything, any advice and help that's going on just now. Within your trial, you'll also get one free report download token, and you get that report reviewed for free as well, which is that additional add-on service at the end of the process that I got confused what Mark was asking me about earlier on. So we always do try to suggest that you line up a live claim ready to kick off your trial, because then you've got the 4 months to essentially stress test the system, have a really good play around with it, produce a live claim, work with the client directly, see how it all feels. If you get to the end of the 30 days and it's not quite for you, there's no obligation to continue. But if you continue to stay with us, you roll into your 12-month subscription seamlessly, and that's you up and running. I'll just pop a little note in the chat box actually just now for anybody who wants another chat, or maybe a more in-depth demo, or to kick off their trial. Feel free to book into my calendar, and I'd love to speak to you again. That's it, I think, from us. I'm not sure if there are any questions. I don't know if Mark's got any for us just there.
Yeah, there's a couple. So thank you very much for that. It was I learnt a lot more about it, and I should have said at the beginning, obviously WhisperClaims are also a strategic partner of the Accountants Mastermind. And we're working obviously with Suz and Mike to bring another couple of webinars. So if there are any questions, feel free to let me know as well, and we can make sure that on the next webinar that we get those answered. But from my perspective, it's really important that people do click on that, because obviously this email and this video is going to go out to other people, and we don't want Suz's. You don't want to be speaking to Suz in 6 months' time because everyone's booked up the link already. So make sure that you get booked up. There was a couple of questions, which I think a lot you've answered, but there was another one around, or two. There was two. One from Bev is, how can non-R&D specialists identify qualifying projects and be assured that these are correct? And Carolyn asked how to identify potential claims, which I know you guys have got a answer for already.
Yeah, so two things to mention. Number one is we've got a really good ebook on exactly that topic to kind of help you to take a look at your client base and understand where eligibility might lie. So we'll post a link up about that. I think Susan's already done that. The other thing, of course, is as we've talked about through the session, the advice line. Whenever you're kind of confronted with a question around eligibility, I'm not sure if this client or this project is eligible. That's exactly what the team there are there to help with. And I'd say that's probably the biggest question they get asked on a daily basis is, can you help me with X, Y, Z? Do you think this is eligible? And we'll give you kind of hints and tips on how to get underneath a particular area of technology or a particular project that you're working with a client.
Excellent, thank you, Mark. I think that's probably an invaluable part of it, isn't it? Because often people go, I just don't know whether it's whether there's anything in there, and to be able to have that kind of advice before you even start wasting any time, I think is quite powerful. Thank you. Michael asked, if you not feel you're getting HMRC to accept that a project is genuinely R&D, what alternative courses of action are there?
Well, that's a question and a half. There is a kind of and in fact, that's been a topic of discussion in the WhatsApp group in the last few weeks with this sort of changing regime. I guess there's a couple of things, actually. Number one is to answer all of the questions that HMRC are asking, because the way that scenario would manifest itself is through the nudge letter process or through the inquiry process. You'd be asked for further information. So make sure that you answer the questions thoroughly. Don't sort of sit back and get frustrated and say, I've already provided that information. You need to answer the question. But if you get to a point where maybe there's been 2 or 3 rounds of conversations, you feel like you're not getting anywhere, or even that the claim's been rejected, there is an appeals process. And again, as I say, that's been a topic of conversation in our WhatsApp group lately. So there is a process to follow if you get to the end point and you're not satisfied with the service that you've got. I don't know whether you can add to that, Jenny, in terms of maybe what you've seen going on in the WhatsApp group and that support on that particular topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to say. I mean, I had an inquiry a couple of years ago, and HMRC just kept saying, well, it's not technical advance. And my client kept coming back and they would say, our software experts say this. And he said, but it's not Windows, it was a Linux product. And he said, but everything you're arguing with is against Windows, but this is a Linux product. It's a completely different thing. But as anybody who knows anything about software, I'm sure knows, Mark. I don't. But eventually they just sort of capitulated. but I know reading the WhatsApp messages that have been going on, you know, they definitely seem to be playing much more hardball, but it doesn't feel like they're doing it from a place of knowledge or a place of even wanting to help. You know, it does feel like HMRC have been given instructions to stop R&D claims. That's how it feels from what
there's definitely there's definitely political pressure at the minute to be seen to be clamping down on ultimately on fraud and bad behaviour within the scheme, and that's manifesting itself, as you say, with some hardball tactics.
And with genuine claims, which is you know, instead of focusing on those fraudulent claims and the dodgy dealers, you know, they seem to be. I think the nudge letters, you know, are just them testing the waters, aren't they? Just saying, you know.
Oh, definitely. I mean, if you look at some of the statistics that HMRC are pushing out, you know, they're saying things like that they sent out fraud-focused letters in the summer last year, and one of the interpretations of that round of communication was that people who didn't respond must therefore have been putting together fraudulent claims, when actually the reality is that many of the people who didn't respond, it just wasn't economically viable for them to spend the time on it. So you've seen, as I say, there's this kind of political thing going on at the moment where they're creating pressure and trying to create some political messages. And I think that will settle down, to be honest, over the next few months, particularly once some of these new measures are in place and there's more confidence on HMRC's part that the scheme is in better shape in terms of that behaviour.
Excellent. And we are slightly over, so I'm going to ask these two questions. In fact, I think I can answer them both, which is I never thought I'd be able to do that on an accountants webinar. But what are the common errors and mistakes of R&D claims by accountants that fail HMRC investigations, and how to avoid them? And what does the future hold for successful claiming R&D? Presumably the reforms coming are responding to poor claims. Well, surely the answer there is to sign up to WhisperClaims, isn't it? Is that not?
That's a great answer, Mark. Yeah, thank you for that.
both buying signals from my perspective.
Definitely.
Obviously, we do need to wrap up, but obviously, Paul and Abil, if you need some further help with it, I'm sure Suz will be delighted to answer any other questions that you've got. And alternatively, as I say, we can cover them. I know we're seeing you again there shortly or soon, aren't we? So we can make sure these things get covered, and also anything else that you wanna do. So Sue's just put her email address in, and I'm going to make sure that the last bit at the bottom is the book call. So we're all gone. So there we go. Thank you very much, Jenny. Thank you very much for your time. I know that we didn't see you long ago on one of these with your payroll software, FreshPay. But yes, so without further ado, I just want to say thank you very much to everybody for attending, and Mike and Suz and Jenny for also giving their time to explain everything about WhisperClaims and how it's helped Jenny's practice. So thank you very much, and we will see you again soon.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Thank you for watching our webinar with Mike and Suz from WhisperClaims. Mike and Suz discussed how WhisperClaims helps your practice navigate through the changing landscape of R&D tax claims. We also had Jennie Gillam from Red Fish Accountancy join us and talk to her about her journey and how WhisperClaims have helped her practice offer more services to their customers. So down here somewhere below, you will see some webinars and some videos that we recommend you watch next. Please remember to like the video if you found it useful, and also subscribe to our channel to ensure you get the latest content to inspire, challenge, and support you to be the best practice you can be.